Well, the hole's been dug, the top is done, and we're just waiting on the water. But the season is changing. It's time to start thinking about grass seed, which means I need to take care of this giant dirt pile and this giant dirt pile. Those are my topsoil piles that I saved back before we dug this, and I need to get them moved. I'm gonna put some around here. Where do you think the best spot to fill it up is? Should I make it all the way dirt flush with the top? Maybe down a little bit? Maybe a couple inches? I'm gonna talk about what I've done in the past and what I've found really works for me. And you know what? I think it's gonna take the backhoe, the tractors, the rake, about all the equipment I got to get this filled up. But I'm not getting anything done right now, so I better go get to work.
Dig, dry, DIY.
I've got 2 piles of dirt. This one here is a little bit smaller, and I put it here because I thought it'd be less of a distance to transport it to this side of the pond. So that's where I'm gonna start. And I'm probably gonna use the backhoe because I can obviously move more dirt with each scoop, which may be curious. I wonder just exactly how much more can I move with the backhoe. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm missing just a little bit of space in the corners there, and I probably could have heaped it up a little bit more, but 4 is a good number. It takes 4 scoops with the 755 to equal 1 scoop with a backhoe. So I'm gonna start moving dirt with the backhoe. I'll probably use the 755 to grade it up and get it up close to the sidewalk. And then I'll be using the rake and probably Bruno and the grader box. You know, this is probably one of the most enjoyable things I do. I love doing this kind of finish work. You get to move dirt, plus you get to finesse a little too. Well, I think we are gonna have plenty of dirt. So I'm partway around the pond. Of course, I'm just roughing it in right now, but judging by the size of this pile and how far I'm making it around here, I think that this pile is gonna go almost all the way around to the pier, and then we'll only be using a little bit out of the big pile. I got a lot to move out front. The trick to this is I want to be able to dump more against the sidewalk than I do against the corn. The backhoe's kind of nice too for packing it in, because you do want it to be packed a little bit, because otherwise it's going to settle anyway. If it's just dumped in there loose and there's a lot of fluff, it'll settle. You can feel the way the backhoe tips to know if you have fog. You kind of got to feel it in the seat. You can look across the hood and see if it's tilted left or right to know if you got fall that you want. Right now I can tell that it's tilted towards the cornfield. I can see it, I can feel it, and I know I got good fall away from the sidewalk. It's time to start filling the edge. So here's my philosophy on this. What I like to do is get loose dirt in here, basically level full with the top of the concrete. And there's a lot of space in there along the edge that needs to be filled in. So then I'll take the tractor and I'll drive along there and I'll pack it all down right against the edge of the concrete. And then I want my finished grade to be about 1 inch down from the top. Gives the turf a chance to build and establish, and it won't overgrow the concrete right away. Now over time it will. You know, if you fill that dirt in too much, it'll overgrow the concrete right away. You see a lot of videos where people are cutting the edges back. So that's why you got to start out a little bit lower. It's not so low that you're going to roll your ankle stepping off of it. Bicycle has no trouble there. But we got to leave a little bit. So I'm going to say 1 inch, 1.5 inches. There's probably some landscaper rule for that, but I'm too lazy to look it up or try to figure out what it's supposed to be. That's just kind of what I do. The girls are here to pick up junk and debris, rocks, pieces of trash, clumps of sod. You know, we got enough dirt that we don't have to use the sod. We can get that out of here. Okay, I've got the dirt moved around pretty close with the loader tractor, and I want to go ahead and get Bruno and the pull type grader box and start dressing this up, getting it leveled up, and then we'll tackle the edge right along the sidewalk and get everything looking nice. I'm going to use Bruno and the hydraulic box because I just want to use Bruno. All right, well, I'd say that's pretty good progress for a couple hours of effort. I think this is going to go pretty well. How we got it set up, I'm going to keep working my way all the way around the sidewalk, and this part of it will be easy. Well, I've been working on the dirt around the sidewalk for the last couple nights as time allows, and it occurred to me I need to talk about elevation because some people have asked about it. So when we put this in, I made sure that the elevation of the concrete was higher than all the surrounding land around it. And that was to prevent runoff water from entering the pond. I don't want field runoff in the pond, and I don't want the debris and such that comes from the field getting into the pond. So it's raised up, which means I should have fall away from the sidewalk all the way around the perimeter. It gets a little hairy up here by the garage because the sidewalk is essentially the same height as the garage. So I want it to drain that way towards you. So I thought I'd talk about a few of the ways I use to make sure that it's falling the right direction. So I do quite a few dirt work projects, so obviously I have a laser level. Basically how a laser level works is the laser itself projects a level plane with a laser beam, and this receiver right here can see that laser beam. Remember, the laser plane is level. So wherever this makes contact with the level plane, then I measure down to the bottom of my stick, and that's how I can determine my elevation. If my number goes up like this, meaning the bottom of the stick goes down farther, then I know I'm deeper. If the receiver goes like this, and I have to raise up to hit the level plane, then that means my elevation is higher. So that's how I can determine grade real easily. So I've got about 2.5 tenths of fall from the sidewalk to the grass, or 3 inches. But there's ways of doing this even if you don't have a laser. If you can come up with a nice long board and a level, you can determine a lot about how the ground is laying, how much it falls. So I'm going to put it right up to where I want my grade to be. And I can see I got a little bit of a crown right here. It looked to me like I had a high spot here in the center, and I know elevation is impossible to really convey on video, but this right here I can tell I must have got the dirt packed down pretty solid, and it's high right here. But there, that's got fall there. That looks good. That's got a 1/2 inch of fall in the distance of my level. The board also reveals that I do have a bit of a crown right there. See where the board's making contact? And it's gapped up there by the sidewalk. So I need to work this area down a little bit. That's what it should look like. It's pretty consistent. I like a nice straight line from whatever my peak elevation is to my low elevation. And I try to avoid like dips and valleys and just make it go from whatever grade I'm ending at to the grade I started at. This is perfectly level right now. Perfectly level is not terrible, but I'm afraid it's still going to run up against the sidewalk, and that's what I don't want. So we've got one more trick up our sleeve. It's pretty obvious, and it works great. Inch and a half. So if this is my finished grade out here where I know it's lower, and I got to make sure I'm on top of a 2x4 out here. All the way along there, if I want a straight grade, I will have I'll be able to fit a 2x4 underneath the string. The other best thing you can do is just get down and look too. You know, a lot of times I'm down on the ground looking across to see what grade looks like. This is actually what I should have said was number 1. You should be doing a lot of this, just getting down and looking at ground level. I can see the problem I'm having over here, but it's not as bad as I thought. See, this is high. I can't quite get this 2x4 underneath that string. Isn't bad though. See, if I had this dirt at a straight shot, I'd be able to slide this 1.5 inch side of the 2x4 underneath this string. And I can't get it underneath right here, which tells me that the dirt's too high. And the string is actually touching back here, which is what my suspicion was. But I wanted to try to illustrate the thought process behind it. It's not just driving around in circles and making it smooth. Too many people make the mistake of trying to make something smooth, and they don't worry about grade and elevation. There's a difference between smooth and flat, or smooth and draining properly. Since this is so hard and compacted, I'm going to set the rippers down and do some circles right where I need to lower that grade, get it busted up, and then I'll raise them up and grade it out. Right, so I spent a couple evenings after work working on the grade around the top, trying to get that high spot cut down, and I was able to take my board and lay it across the ground and see that I had a really nice gradual slope from the sidewalk to the outside of the grass. You know, remember, the easiest way to look at it, to check it, is just to lay down on the ground, and you could sight across the ground and see how it looks. But if you want to double check yourself, get out that big long board, put the level on top, and I could see that I got nearly a 1/2 inch of fall in just the length of the level. So it all looks good around here. I'm going to check it along the sidewalk as I go between the pond and the pine trees. That's all got plenty of fall through there. So that's looking really good. And now it's time to work on something that everyone seems to think I've forgotten. We got to go over there by the barn and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I'm over here on the side of the pond. pond where I've got the shortest distance between one of my outbuildings and the sidewalk's edge. And this is what a lot of people think that I've forgotten. They said you should have put a provision in underneath the sidewalk so you could get wires in there, or an air line for an aerator, or electrical for a fountain, whatever the case may be. Well, fortunately, we did put a pipe underneath the sidewalk. And even though it wasn't shown on camera, it was still there. So I spent last night trying to dig out the trench between the sidewalk and the overcut around our barn here so I could lay in a conduit, only to discover that what I thought was a 2-inch pipe under the sidewalk was in fact a 2.5-inch pipe. So I ran to the store tonight and got a piece of 2.5-inch. I'm gonna get this leveled up, try to get my pipe installed, and then we can finish this dirt work and maybe be ready for some seed around here. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. Get this squared up and put in a new piece of pipe. All right, so that is gonna look like that. I wanna see what this looks like with this sod flopped over on there. I'm hoping you can't even tell. Okay, I think I'm gonna mark this. Let's mark this side. Just a little inconspicuous black line right here. There we go. That is a wrap on the pipe. We'll come back, get this all filled in and ready for seed around the top of the sidewalk. Well, that took a lot longer than I thought it would. It always does. Pretty much spent all week, every night after work, working out here, and then most of today, but I think it looks good. You happy with it?
Looks great.
I never got to the front yard like I thought I would, but that'll be a project for another day. Right now, it's Labor Day weekend. I think it's time to just sit down and relax and picture what this is gonna look like with water in it. But I want to thank you for clicking on this video. I hope that you liked it, and if we're lucky,
We'll see you in the next one.
we'll see you in the next one.